Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be talking about some Russian spiral bangles and bracelets. Today in this video I'm going to tell you about the basic stitch, like how you can do the Russian spiral, and maybe in the next upcoming videos I'll be talking about different kinds of patterns that you can do with Russian spiral. I have some own versions of mine which I'm going to talk to you about in the next video. So it's going to be a series of Russian spiral bracelets, necklaces, or maybe patterns that I'm going to be telling you about. So in this video I will be talking about how you can convert or make the basic Russian spiral stitch and then just shine it into a ring or just make it into a beautiful bangle, which is really flexible and it's really long lasting. And maybe in the next video I'll be talking to you about how you can add in a closure or a clasp to your bracelet or your necklace, whatever you have. And then in the next videos I'll be talking to you about the different patterns that you can use with your Russian spiral stitch. So let's get started with the work. In order to make it into a bangle, just a regular bangle kind of a work, that is the basic Russian spiral, you will require some 8/0 seed beads and some 11/0 seed beads. You don't have to stick to 8/0s and 11/0s. You can go a bit bigger or a bit smaller by using some 11s and some 15s, or maybe you can go a bit higher by using some 6s and 8s, or maybe you can use bicons like 3mm or faceted rounds, whatever you have in hand. It doesn't really, you don't have to stick to just one kind of a beads, because you can use just whatever you want to with your Russian spiral. So I'm going to stick with some 8/0s and 11/0s for the while. So in order to make it into just a plain bangle, you will need some 8/0 seed beads and some 11/0 seed beads, and of course a needle and some thread of your choice. You can use file line. Here I'm using a plastic thread, that is a nylon thin wire. It's beautiful. It works best for my Russian spiral bangle, so I'm going to use that. You can use whatever, maybe Nozu Sunoko, or because Nozu Sunoko works fine for a bangle, and you can also use file line, wildfire, whatever you have in hand. So let's get your materials together and we'll get started. So you want to take your needle and thread about 2 unspan long of thread for a good 7-inch bracelet or bangle. My bangle here is 7 inches long, and so to make a 7-inch long bangle or a bracelet, you need to thread on your needle to 2 arm span long of thread. And what I've done now is I've picked up an 8/0, 2 of my 11s, an 8, 2 of my 11s, an 8 and 2 of my 11/0s. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them down to the very end of my thread. Make sure that you don't let your bead slide down. You can also add in a stopper bead if you'd like to, but not for me. I'm going to, because I'm going to do or convert it into a bangle, so I'm not going to leave any thread or tail thread to add in my closure. And I'm going to tie a knot. 2 knots would be fine. And then I'm going to hold my work in this way. Okay. You should then have a circle of beads with 3 of your 11s, 3 of your 8s and 2 sets of 11/0s side by side. Now the basic funda of the whole thing is that you want to come out of one of the 11/0s that is standing in front of your 8/0. So make sure that the basic idea is that you need to come out of an 11/0 which is right in front of your 8/0. So see, you can come out of any one of the 11/0s in front of the 8/0s, doesn't really matter, but you have to make sure that you're coming out of an 11/0 in this way. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to pick up an 8/0 and 2 of my 11/0s, an 8 and 2 11s. Now what I want to do is the stitch goes like this. You're always going to pick up an 8 and 2 11s. I'm coming out of this 11-0 right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into exactly the 11-0, which is standing right in front of the 8-0. So if I'm going to work anti-clockwise, I'm going to be seeing the 8-0, which is right next to the bead that I'm coming out of, and I'm going to go into exactly the 11-0 that is in front of my 8-0. So that's the basic idea of the whole stitch. So I'm going to pull my thread, and with my fingers I want to lift this right up. Now I'm coming out of an 11-0, so again I'm going to pick up an 8-0 and 2 of my 11-0s. Now as I told you, the basic idea is to go into one of the 11-0s that is in front of the 8-0. So my next 11-0 that is in front of the next 8-0 is this one right here. So I'm going to go into it. See? So I'm going to tell you once again, this was the first 11-0 that we went through. This was the 11-0 that we were coming out of initially, this one right here. And we went into this 11-0 in front of my 8-0. And again we picked up an 8 and 2 11s, and we're going to go into this 11-0 right in front of the next 8-0. So the basic idea as referred is going to be, we're going to have to come out of the first 11-0 that we initially we were coming out of. So the next would be this 8-0 and the 11-0 in front of that. So after picking up an 8 and 2 11s, this was the 8-0 and this is the 11. So I'm going to go into the 11 in this way, only the 11-0. And so now if you look closely, we have 3 sets of beading on top of the initial round. So this is the first one, this is the second one, and this is the third one. Now we are done for the first part. Now we need to step up. So to step up, if you look closely, I'm coming out of this 11-0 right here. So to step up, I don't have anywhere else to go but to go into this 8-0 and the 11-0 in front of it. So I'm going to go into those 2 beads again. You must remember that after adding 2 sets of beads, on the third one we're going to do a step up every time when we are working around the beading. So now if you look closely, I'm going to show you something. So if this was my first initial bead, I'm going to pick up an 8-0 and 2 11s, and then where am I going to go? I'm going to go into this 11-0 that is in front of the 8-0. And then again I'm going to pick up some 8-0, one of the 8-0s and 2 11s, and then if I'm working in an anti-clockwise motion, this is going to be the bead that we will be coming out of. And then again we're going to pick up an 8-0 and 2 11s, and then we have to come out of this bead. So remember, we are always going to pass through one 11-0 twice, and that is going to be the beginning of the round bead. That bead is going to be the beginning bead. Okay, so I'm coming out of an 11-0 right here. I'm going to pick up an 8-0 with 2 11s. Always remember, you're always picking up an 8-0 and 2 11-0s. So I'm coming out of this bead right here. I'm going to go into the 11-0 that is standing right in front of my next 8-0. And then again I'm going to do the same thing, turning my work. I'm going to pick up an 8-0 and 2 of my 11s, and I'm going to go through the 11-0 that is standing right in front of the next 8-0 of my round. Now if I turn my work again, you're going to see this is going to be the bead that we will be going into, because this is the bead that is in front of the 8-0. So I'm going to go pick up an 8-0, 2 of my 11s, and go into this bead right here. But as I told you, in every round you're going to do a step up. So at this point here I'm going to go into the 11, which is actually the round, and then to do a step up we're going to go into this 8-0 and the 11-0. So after doing that, I have now stepped up into the third round of the beading work. Again, I'm going to do the same thing before going. I'm going to pick up an 8-0 and 2 11s. I'm coming out of this bead, so I'm going to go into this bead. Then again, picking up an 8-0 and 2 11s, I'm going to go into this bead. And again, I'm going to pick up an 8-0 and 2 11s. I'm going to go into this bead and do a step up right here. So I'm going to do that now. Picking up an 8-0 and 2 of my 11-0s. I'm going to go into this bead. It's easy, right? You just have to get the funder. Picking up an 8-0 and 2 of my 11s, I'm going to go into the next 11-0 in front of my next 8-0. And then at the very end of the round, I'm going to pick up an 8-0 and 2 of my 11s. And here I'm going to do a step up. So I'm going to go into the 11, 8 and the 11. So 2 times we're just going into the beads, and the third time we're just going into the bead and doing a step up. So this is how your piece must look like now. So I'm going to continue doing this 2 more times just to show you, and then I'm going to continue and meet you at the very end. So I just picked up an 8 and 2 11s, going into the 11-0, picking up an 8 and 2 of my 11s. I'm going to go into the next 11-0. Again, picking up an 8 and 2 of my 11s and going into this 8-0. I'm sorry, the 11, the 8 and the 11. I'm going to pull tight. Doing it once more for you. Picking up an 8, 2 11s. I'm going to go into the 11-0, standing right in front of my next 8-0, turning my work, picking up an 11 and 2 of my, picking up an 8 and 2 of my 11s. I'm going to go into the next 11-0, picking up an 8 and 2 of my 11s, and I'm going to go into the next 11-0, and again the 8-0 and the 11-0. So this is where I stepped up for the next round. So this is how your piece must look like right now. If you look closely at the sample, they look exactly the same. A little slight difference in colors can change the look of the design so beautifully. If I show you this right here, just look at that. Every single design looks so different from each other. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to continue doing this bracelet, and at the very end I'm going to show you how we can just join it together into a beautiful, flexible and fun bangle. So stay tuned. Alright, I have done the length of my bracelet. I've completed it totally. I know that this is my size, so I have done the length of my bangle. Now what I want to do is I want to join them into a round so that I'll be able to finish it off. So if you look closely, you have diagonal positions of beads. So if you look at this blue bead, it's in a diagonal motion in this way. So I want to take it and put it in a way where I can have all my beads lined up in this way. So if you see, they are now linked together. So I want to put it right here, right where it's supposed to be, in this way. So holding my beads in position, I'm going to take my needle. Now you have to be very careful when you're doing this. If you don't do this correct, it's not going to work out. So my thread is coming out of here in this bead, and I want to position my beadwork in this way so that you want to see here right now. See, my thread is coming out of this bead. I need to join this one into here. Okay, so very carefully I'm going to go into these 2 beads in this way, and then just pull it tight so that they are now joined together. Now I'm going to come into this blue bead, this 8-0, and to have them join together I want to go into this 8-0 and I'm going to go into this 8-0. Now to have them join together, I have connected this part. I just need to connect it to the other side. Now you have to be very careful so that you don't show some thread. If you show some thread, it won't look good. So now these two beads are joined. Now I'm going to move away a bit, and then with my thread I'm going to come into these two beads, the 11s, and pull tight. And I'm going to go into these two beads right here, these two 11s. You're just joining each and every part together. So over here again I'm going to go into, I'm sorry about my doggy barking out there. I'm going to this 8-0. To join this 8-0 together, I'm going to go down, go up, pull tight, and then go down through this bead. And you have to be very tight. If you're not tight enough, it's not going to work out. So with my thread, I'm going to go into these two 11s and try to fix it up. And to join these two 11 with it, go into them and pull tight. See how they're working out. Now this is the last bead that I want to fix, so I'm going to go into the 8-0, go up through the side 8-0, down through the initial or the first 8-0, and then into these two 11s. These are the last beads that I need to connect. Pull tight, and then I'm going to go into those first two 11s that I was coming out of when I started off the joining part. Make sure that your threads in the right order. See, now you have an invisible joint where you don't know where the beads are actually fixed together. So I'm going to tie a good couple of knots. If you want to reinforce your work, you can just go into some of the beads again, but I don't need to do that because I know that my thread is strong enough and won't come out. Go into some of the beads, make 2 more knots, pull tight. I went ahead and trimmed off my tail thread, the working thread, and I just cut it off, and I have a pretty bangle to wear. So now what I can do is I can just slide it in my hand, and there you have a pretty bangle. If you want, you can stack some of the more bangles, and then you have a pretty set of bangles to wear that you can definitely wear on a daily basis, because the beads are really kind of like flexible and they work out really beautifully with your work. And so this was what I wanted to show you today, and that's about the basic Russian spiral. I hope the video was clear enough. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and maybe subscribe to my channel for more updates. In the next few videos I'm going to talk more about Russian spiral and the various complexities that you can work with the bracelets. Now to inform you, I also have opened up a new crochet channel, so if you are a crocheter, then you would definitely like to check out that page of mine or the channel of mine. I'm gonna put a link in the description box below, and all the details of these beads are going to be of these bracelets are going to be in the description box below. Leave a comment, like my video, and maybe subscribe. I'll see you next time, guys. Bye.